Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. In today's video, we will be propagating a very beautiful succulent called as the Graptopetalum Macdougallii. I'll put up the name on the screen. I'm not very sure if I've pronounced that correct, but you can see it's an absolutely beautiful cluster forming succulent. It's often confused with the Haworthia prolifica or our sempervivums. Now this is a Graptopetalum. It's a completely different variety. Now the best thing about this succulent is it's an absolutely easy to grow succulent. It does not require a lot of direct sunlight. Probably early morning, 1 hour of direct sunlight is absolutely okay. So I'm growing them in indirect bright light. They receive around 10 to 11 hours of indirect bright light. I did put them out in morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, but I noticed that they were getting burnt a little. So I moved them to indirect bright light. As usual, the soil mix remains the same, which is 80% of aquarium sand and 20% of filtered garden soil. You can go with any soil mix as long as it's lean in nutrients, loose, porous and well draining. Now talking about dormancy, these tend to go dormant during the summers and winter is their growing period. So if you belong to a location or a city or a place wherein the temperatures are very high, especially if it's above 35 degrees Celsius or let's say 40 degrees Celsius, please do not propagate it at this point of time. It might not work out or it might not be successful. In my city, the temperatures are very pleasant, so I can propagate my succulents throughout the year. I do not have much issue with dormancy and non-dormancy. I have noticed that most of my succulents that are supposed to be dormant during the summer season also tend to put out a lot of growth, so I don't have much restrictions when it comes to propagations. But again, to be on the safer side, in the month of Feb, March, April, I do not do much of propagations because the temperatures are around 33 to 34 degrees Celsius, which is still okay for my succulents, but just to be on the safer side, I do not do any kind of propagations during that 3 months of the time. Right now, the temperatures have dropped. It has started to rain as well. Yesterday, it was raining a lot. So today, it is a little bit sunny. It's very dry. So I thought I will do this propagation and show it to you. Again, as I said, if the temperatures are very high in your city, please don't do any propagations. You can probably do it in the winters. Now, it's pretty simple to propagate your Graptopetalum Macdougallii. You don't need any scissors or any blades or any knife. Over here, I have my soil mix ready, which is 80% of aquarium sand and 20% of garden soil. Ensure that the soil is completely bone dry because over here, we will be doing the cutting and directly putting it into the soil. So the soil has to be completely bone dry. Because the stems of our Graptopetalum Macdougallii are very, very thin, they do not need to be calloused. You can directly put them in dry soil. Again, you have to ensure that you do not water it right away. So over here, I have already done a cutting. You can see this is how it looks like. There are a good amount of roots. So I have separated an entire clump of offsets with the roots. So over here, I will just take the succulent and just push it into the soil. You can see my soil mix is very loose, very porous. You can see it easily gets into the soil. And that's all about it. Again, the same thing, we will not water it. Even though this one has a good set of roots, we will still wait for a couple of days. The succulent is very well hydrated. Always hydrate your succulent before you're doing any kind of repotting or cutting or separating of the clumps. So over here, we are done. Now I will show you another method because these tend to put out a lot of runners. So you can separate them with runners as well. So let me search for a runner. Right over here, there is one that is poking out. I'm going to take that runner and put it into the soil. So you basically don't need any knife, blade or scissor. As I said, you can just pinch it off and they will easily break as they do not have very thick or strong stem. These are basically runners. Now luckily this runner also has some roots, so that is a good part. Now all we have to do is just push it into the soil and that's about it. So we will hold the runner, we will see the roots and then just push it into the soil. It's pretty simple. In this way you can keep separating as many runners as you want. They will start to mature. Again guys, it's a very slow process. Probably in another 3 to 4 months, let's say 3 to 4 months, this spot that I'm just planting these runners and the clump, in 3 to 4 months time, this will also turn out to be very bushy. The entire pot is going to get covered with our Graptopetalum. So it's a very, very easy to grow plant. Again, you have to give the basic care requirements. As I said, the soil mix should be loose, porous and well draining. They do not like a very compact soil because their runners, their stem, their roots are very, very fragile. So you have to be extremely careful. Again, the same thing, this one we do not offer morning direct sunlight, so they are going to be kept in indirect bright light. So you can see it's an absolutely beautiful cluster forming Graptopetalum. Very easy to take care. If you are a beginner, if you're planning to get this plant, do add it in your collection. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is do not expose them to long hours of direct sunlight, otherwise the leaves will get burnt. Soil mix remains the same. Ensure that it's not very organic rich, otherwise you might have issues with mealybugs. Luckily till date I did not have any issues with mealybugs, because you all know my soil mix is not very highly organic. It's more of a sandy soil mix that I tend to use, and that tends to work out really well. When you have a soil mix that is highly organic or that has a very high organic matter in it, that's when all these issues start of fungus, mold, pests, ants visiting your pot. But when you have a very lean nutrient soil, it works out really well. You do not have much issues with pests, you do not have much issues with ants, and the soil is very gritty, very loose, tends to also dry out fast. The more organic the soil is, the more longer it takes to dry. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.